Hello, and welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast. The podcast where we talk about what it means to be an alpha male today, in this culture, in this society. The right way with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values. Today, not in place of, but in addition to our normal routine, I'm going to rebroadcast the original episode of the Alpha Male Podcast. The original episode from way back in 2017. It kind of explains the idea behind, the reason for, the purpose of the Alpha Male Podcast. I wouldn't call it a mission statement, but I would say that they rhyme. If this message at all resonates with you, do you think this is something our culture severely needs, our young men need? Consider going to GoodShepherdTraining.com and becoming a patron. With that, I'm going to plug in the original Alpha Male Podcast episode. Hello, and welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast, a podcast where we're going to wrestle with, seek out, and discuss all things manly. I am Michael, and I'll be your host. A little bit about me. First and foremost, I'm a Christian. That's paramount in every part of my life. Hopefully it should be. And this podcast will be no different. Everything I have is a gift from God. And my logic, my reason, my manliness, it's all from God. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them. He made us men. He made all the attributes that make us manly. Strength and power and might. Those are all given. We're going to discuss those things. More about me. I'm a United States Marine Corps combat veteran, honorably discharged. Went to war a couple times. Led men in combat. I also spent many years with the LAPD. I did regular, what you would think of as police work, foot patrol, regular patrolling, vehicle stops, just regular work in a beat, cop. I also did some more specialized assignments that I won't get into. As of currently, I'm still serving in the United States military, one of the reserve components. That's all I'll say about that. And I'm currently full-time working for one of the three-letter government agencies as a firearms and tactics instructor. So you can, that's about as specific as I'm going to get on that. And that's about all I'm going to go over my background. My name is Michael. And before we get into the meat of the topic today, I want to discuss why I started this podcast. It's been on my mind for a long time to actually start doing this, and a couple of reasons. Number one is, I think in today's culture and society, and I'm in America, I'm speaking mostly to Americans, although you're welcome to listen from anywhere, that today's culture, in this place and time, it really has dissolved the family unit. And a lot of men growing up, a lot of boys growing up, whatever the transition is for you or whatever side of the fence you're on that, a lot of us grow up without that strong male father figure that generations past had the advantage of having. A lot of us grow up with a single mother or with an absent father or with, nobody's father is perfect, but with less than ideal father figures in our lives. And I've noticed from being in the military and being a mentor, being a non-commissioned officer, being a children's pastor, being a men's minister, being all those different things, I've noticed a real lack in today's culture and society of strong, well-rounded, moral, I would say godly, male father figures, and showing men today what real manliness is. And I think that's something that's lacking. And obviously I'm not going to be able to do anything about that on my own, but I hope to shed light on that. The other big reason for this podcast is also today's culture and time. I see a downward spiral in general manliness in the males in our society and culture. I think there's a real feminization going on where a lot of men, even if they do know what they should do to be men, they kind of feel ashamed of it. They kind of feel like there's something wrong with being a strong, independent male, taking charge and being that strong, manly man. They kind of see that as a negative. A lot of women don't know how to handle that in today's society, and a lot of men don't know how to handle that, to step up and be in charge and be a man. And hopefully this will help alleviate some little portions of that and help clear those areas up in life. Now, men and women are different. I don't care how much society tries to say we're the same. We are the same in that we are both equally valuable and loved and beautiful, but in very different ways. Men and women are different, and no matter how much you try and make it not that way, it doesn't matter. It is that way. Men and women are different. We're created different. We are different. By our very nature, we are different. And that's a good and beautiful thing. Variety is a great thing. So let's not try and be the same. Let's figure out what makes us men and embrace it and nourish it and water it and let it grow. Now, what do you think of when you think of manliness, when you think of being a man, when you think of that mental picture in your head, when you imagine masculinity? What does that look like to you? I'd like for you to put this on pause for a few seconds. Think about some of the great male figures in history, or even currently, and all those qualities that they might share in common. Think about that for a second before we come back. Now, I have a few in mind. I'll share mine. My view of masculinity and being a man and manliness, being that alpha male, that will be different from yours. However many listeners there are, that's how many different opinions there will be on what exactly manliness is. But I'm sure we all have many things that will all be in common. And I bet many things on my list will be on your list. Number 1, the manliest man that ever lived, the greatest alpha male of all, Jesus Christ. Think of all his qualities. Strength, physically, mentally, spiritually. Strength is more than just big, strong arms. You have to be mentally tough. Any warrior will tell you mental toughness is more important than physical toughness, because mental toughness will give you physical toughness and physical prowess. Spiritual toughness, even more important than mental toughness, and therefore more important than physical toughness. Jesus had all those things. Being humble. Jesus, the most humble man that ever lived, humbled himself to the point of death, even death on a cross. Not for glory. He was spit on and beaten, but he was humble and he did the right thing at the right time, because it was the right thing to do. Now, we'll get into being humble a little bit more later, but that doesn't mean he denied who he was, and that didn't mean he belittled himself and he didn't have self-esteem. He knew who he was and he owned it. That's confidence. That's another part of manliness that is bestowed, that Jesus personifies. Another thing, an example that he gave so well, serving something greater than yourself. Serving a greater cause, serving for a purpose. Think of whatever other men, either real or fictional, that you picked out of those manly men. William Wallace, Constantine, Charlemagne, Alexander the Great, John McClane from Die Hard, Batman. I don't care who it is. Do they not all share those same qualities? Do they not all serve something greater than themselves? Do they not all self-sacrifice? Were they not all strong and courageous? These are all qualities of manliness. No matter what your idea of manliness is, we all share some of these qualities when we think of what it takes to be a man. Being strong, being humble, being confident, sticking up for those weaker than ourselves. That's a strong foundation for manliness. You see, if you think that manliness is drinking a lot of whiskey and beating up another guy and sleeping with the most women, that's not manliness. And I thought that when I was younger, mostly because I didn't have a good mentor and I didn't grow up with good moral foundation. But I found out in life the hard way that those things, that's not what makes a true man. In fact, those things are generally the opposite of a real, strong man. Those are weakness. Those things are the manifestation of weakness coming out. That doesn't make you a man. That takes away from your manliness. One of the great aspects of manliness is self-control. Think of any strong male hero. Do they not withstand hardship? Do they not go through hard times? Now, there's nothing wrong with enjoying alcohol and done in the right context. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to women. You should be if you're a man. That's a good, beautiful thing. But the point is, you have control over those things. Those things don't have control over you. If you have control, that makes you more of a man. If you're controlled by anything other than God, that makes you less strong and less manly. Men are called to be strong and courageous and mighty and in control. What hero can you think of? Think about whatever hero it is. A real hero in history or a superhero? Did they not have control? Did they not serve something other than themselves? No doubt they were great and strong and powerful, but they didn't use that to serve themselves and selfish ambition. They used that to serve something greater, whether it was their country, their empire, mankind, whatever it was. Use that strength. They used it for something. Is there not a reason that all the superheroes we invent in pop culture, whether it's Spider-Man or Superman or Batman or Captain America, all these manly, the epitome of manliness, they all are strong and powerful, but they all use it to serve others. And that is manly. There's only one truth, and that comes out. There's a lot wrong with pop culture, but they can't deny what manliness is. They can't, we all have that innate truth in us. We know what a true man should be. We know what a good man should be. And when we invent superheroes, we personify those things that manliness should be. Strength and honor and power and might. And sacrifice. Before we get into more of the minutia and nuance in the other episodes of specific aspects and specific people and specific times and places and specific attributes that make one manly, I just wanted to give an overview and have you think and have you realize what true manliness really is and what it really means to be an alpha male. If you're looking for a podcast to teach you how to go hook up with chicks and go drink and beat guys over the head with a beer bottle at bars, this is not the podcast for you. There's plenty of other podcasts for that. If you're looking for a podcast that hopefully we'll learn together how to be stronger, more independent, better leaders, more strength, more honor, more power, more might, more dominion and more control over the things around us. You're looking to be that kind of man, to be that kind of alpha male. hopefully this is a podcast for you. Part of being a man, even more so being an alpha male, being the alpha, being a leader among men, means being the best that you can be and striving to be all that you can be. But to strive to be better, it's good to figure out what that better is, what you're striving for. So I'd encourage all of you to think this day, this week, this night, whatever, about manliness, about what it means to you. And please let me know in the comments. Best way to leave comments so me and everybody else can see it is just put in an iTunes review. Just review it and say, this is what I think, this is what I think manliness is. I think you got this right, I think you got this wrong. And you can go ahead and leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this. This will be the first of the Alpha Male podcast. And like I said, the next couple ones we'll get into more specific things about how to take charge and be a better, more well-rounded man.
Well, I hope that struck a chord with you men. I hope that resonated with you, and I hope that's something that you care about and think our culture needs. I did this podcast to start for years and years, literally out of pocket, working other jobs to pay for this podcast. And then people stepped up and said that they wanted to help support the podcast. And I thought that if they were going to do that, I ought to go from doing it a couple of times a year to hopefully, by God's grace, doing it a couple of times a week. And hopefully you guys appreciate that. And again, hopefully it's something you care about and want to support. So if you do, I would appreciate your support. Please consider going to goodshepherdtraining.com and clicking on the Patreon link. Or you can also contact me on goodshepherdtraining.com. There's other ways you'd like to support. With that, men, I want to say thanks for listening. I know we talk about all kinds of different stuff here on the Alpha Male podcast, and we go down rabbit holes and all that stuff, but hopefully the core of this podcast always stays God and focused on God, and brings glory to God, and brings young men to God. With that, men, I want to say thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.